That morning smelled like rain and regret. I had just buried my father, a man made of iron and dust, and all I wanted was silence. But life has a cruel habit of turning funerals into beginnings. When the lawyer called me into his office, his face looked like he was holding a secret that weighed $1 million. And he was. "Mr. Thornwell," he said, "your father left you 3 ranches in Texas and a house on the North Carolina coast." I blinked. 3 ranches? A coastal mansion? My heart pounded so hard it felt like I could hear the echo in the walls. $17 million in land, livestock, and legacy. And for a moment, just a moment, I felt like a child again, wanting to call my son and say, "Son, your grandfather did it. He took care of us all." But when I got home that night, what I heard through the front door wasn't joy. It was a conversation so cold it froze my blood. "We need to make sure the money ends up where it belongs," a woman's voice whispered, my daughter-in-law Vanessa. "It will," my son Marcus replied. "I'm his only heir. Everything will come to me eventually." "Eventually?" she snapped. "Your father is 59. He could live another 30 years. We can't wait that long." The air left my lungs. My hands shook. I stood in the hallway, hidden in the shadows of my own home, listening to my blood plot against me. Vanessa's voice was smooth, dangerous, almost professional. She spoke like someone used to getting what she wanted. "Your father has millions he'll never spend. He's alone. He needs help managing it, our help. We'll convince him to give you legal control, for his own good." "And if he refuses?" "If he refuses?" Marcus asked. "Then we make him legally incompetent. Simple. Silence. Heavy, thick, unforgiving." That was the moment my grief turned to fury. People say betrayal feels like a knife in your back. They're wrong. It feels like a knife you forged yourself, now buried in your chest by the person you taught to use it. I wanted to storm in, to yell, to ask why. But I didn't. Because rage makes you stupid, and I was done being stupid. Instead, I stepped quietly back into the night and made a promise to myself. If they want war, I'll give them a masterclass in strategy. I called my old friend Rob Dixon, a former prosecutor, now a shark in a suit. "Rob," I said, "my son is about to make the biggest mistake of his life. I need to teach him why you never rob a man who's spent 40 years learning to survive." He didn't ask questions. He just said, "Come to my office. Bring everything." And that's where it began. Not a story of inheritance, but a story of exposure. A story where love and law collide. Where a father learns that sometimes the only way to save your family is to let them crash into their own greed. So before you judge me for what I'm about to do, understand this. I didn't plan revenge out of hatred. I planned it out of love for truth, for justice, for every parent who has been used by their own blood. My name is Elias Thornwell. I'm 59 years old. And I am not losing everything I built to a pair of smiling predators who share my last name. This was no longer about money. This was about a legacy, and whether mine would end in betrayal or injustice. Because when family turns into a threat, blood isn't thicker than water. It's just harder to wash off. People look at families like mine and think they see perfection. A son with a law degree, a polished wife, family dinners lit by designer chandeliers. But perfection, my friend, is just excellent lighting hiding structural cracks. Marcus, my only son, was the kind of boy every father dreams of and every father later regrets creating. Smart, ambitious, articulate, but allergic to accountability. He graduated law school with my money, my name, and none of my values. His wife, Vanessa, well, she was the kind of woman who could turn a compliment into a calculation. Every smile was rehearsed, every gesture rehearsed twice. She had a habit of glancing at my house like an appraiser looking at property she already owned. "Mr. Thornwell," she'd purr, "this house is huge for one person, isn't it?" "It's my home," I'd reply. "Of course," she'd say, smiling like she was already rearranging the furniture in her head. At the time, I dismissed it, the small talk of a daughter-in-law trying to sound involved. But looking back, every word was a brick in a wall she was quietly building between me and my son. See, Marcus wasn't cruel, not yet. He was comfortable. And comfort kills faster than hate. When his law firm failed, I wrote checks. When his debts piled up, I wrote bigger ones. $120,000 later, I realized I wasn't helping a son. I was financing a habit. And habits, especially greedy ones, don't die. They evolve. After the funeral, when that inheritance dropped into my lap like divine irony, they both appeared at my doorstep, flowers in hand, sorrow in voice, and strategy in their eyes. "Dad," Marcus said, "we just want to make sure you're not overwhelmed. You've been through a lot." "It's a lot to manage," Vanessa added sweetly. "3 ranches, a beach house, we just want to help." That word again. The deadliest 4-letter word in the English language when spoken by manipulators. I watched them perform compassion, each line delivered perfectly, like actors who rehearsed their cues in the mirror. I nodded, pretending to be touched, while inside I was cataloging their tells, Marcus's nervous throat clearing every time money came up, Vanessa's left eyebrow twitch when she lied. They weren't just after wealth, they were after control. Later that night, I stood in my study staring at old photos, Marcus at age 8 holding his first baseball bat, grinning with a missing tooth. Hunter, my late wife, standing beside me, her hand on my shoulder. She used to say, "Elias, don't spoil him. Give him values, not vacations." I failed her. Because now that boy was planning to turn me into a signature. That's the illusion of family. You think blood guarantees loyalty. But blood is just biology, character is choice. The next day, I watched their social media posts. Vanessa was uploading photos from the funeral, captioned, "Celebrating a life well lived #family forever." Family forever? She was already plotting the inheritance behind that filter. By then, I understood their play completely. Vanessa would push Marcus to approach me, professionally, to handle the estate like a client. They would convince me to sign a temporary power of attorney. And once I did, they'd sell everything, liquidate the ranches, and call it financial management. All legal. All final. But what they didn't know is that grief had made me sharper, not weaker. While they planned their attack, I was drafting a counterstrike. I called Rob again. "They think they're casting me as the helpless old man," I told him. "Then play the part," he said. "Let them believe it. Every actor needs an audience." So I smiled at family dinners, played the confused father asking too many questions. I watched them study me like predators tracking a deer that's pretending to limp. They were sure I was weak. They were sure they were winning. And I was sure of one thing. By the time this performance ended, the audience would know exactly who the real actors were. Because behind every perfect family photo is a truth waiting to detonate, and mine was about to explode in their faces. You ever realize that silence can be the loudest sound in a house? For the next 2 days, I moved through my home like a ghost. No words, no anger, just listening to that silence. The silence between betrayal and strategy. I didn't confront Marcus or Vanessa. That would have given them power, a reaction, an advantage. Instead, I made a decision that would define everything that came after. If they wanted a war of manipulation, I'd fight it with precision. First, I called Rob Dixon. Former prosecutor. Old friend. The kind of man who doesn't flinch when the truth gets dirty. "Rob," I said, "my son and his wife are planning to rob me, legally. I need protection." "Protection from your own son?" he asked quietly. "No," I corrected him. "Protection from my own blood." Within an hour, I was in his office, sitting under the hum of fluorescent lights as we built what I'd call Operation Rope. The idea was simple, give them enough rope to hang themselves. But the execution, that had to be art. Rob drafted a document that would make any lawyer proud and any thief terrified. An irrevocable trust. As long as I lived and had mental capacity, I controlled everything. If anyone ever tried to declare me incompetent, the entire fortune would transfer automatically to charity. No loopholes. No negotiation. Just poetic justice. I signed it that very night. But that wasn't enough. I needed proof. Evidence. So, we installed discrete cameras, top grade, hidden in picture frames, behind vents, even inside a decorative clock on the mantle. Microphones in the study, the living room, the dining room. Legal. Admissible. Bulletproof. Because when you fight snakes, you don't just need venom, you need video. Then I waited. 3 days later, Marcus called. Dad, how are you feeling? Have you thought about what we talked about? The inheritance, the properties. I made my voice soft, hesitant. I have, son. It's overwhelming. Maybe you're right. I could use some help. That pause on the line. It was pure greed breathing through the phone. Of course, Dad. Vanessa and I can handle everything. We'll take care of it like family. Like family, I repeated, smiling. Yes, that's exactly what I need. When they arrived the next evening, I was ready. The study lights were warm, calm. The camera was recording. Vanessa came in dressed like she was auditioning for sainthood, soft tones, polite smile, empathy turned to maximum. Marcus carried a leather portfolio, the kind lawyers use when they're about to sell you something disguised as justice. Dad, he said, we drew up a document that will make things simple. A power of attorney, temporary, just to help you with the estate. That's thoughtful, I murmured. Let me see. I flipped through the pages slowly. The wording was clever. Temporary, yes, but buried deep in the clauses was language that would give them full control over my assets. They could buy, sell, transfer, all without my approval. A paper-thin mask of legality covering a heist. Vanessa leaned forward, voice syrupy sweet. It's completely normal, Mr. Thornwell. We'd never do anything without telling you. I looked her dead in the eye and said, I'm sure you wouldn't. Then I smiled, the kind of smile that looks trusting, but hides teeth. I'll think about it. It's a big decision. Of course, Marcus said. But Dad, don't wait too long. There are taxes, deadlines, investments. I understand, I cut in. I just need time. They left that night glowing with victory. And the moment their car disappeared down the road, I poured myself a drink, sat in my study, and re-watched every second on my hidden camera feed. Their words, their tones, their little glances when I hesitated, as if they could already smell the money. And as I watched, I felt no sadness, no fear, just calm. Because now the game had started, and I was done being the prey. They wanted my signature. They'd get one, just not on the papers they brought. Let the trap begin, I whispered to the empty room. And let the actors take their stage. They say the devil doesn't come with horns, he comes wearing a smile and holding legal documents. And I had just watched him leave my driveway. Marcus and Vanessa thought they had won. They thought the old man was slipping, confused, grateful for their help. But while they slept dreaming of millions, I was rewatching every frame of their betrayal, every flicker of greed caught on hidden camera. The trap had been set, and it worked like a charm. The next morning, I called Marcus. Son, I said softly, I've thought about it. You're right. I can't handle this alone. He nearly choked on his own excitement. That's great, Dad. We'll take care of everything, I promise. Promise. That word hit me like acid. 3 days later, we scheduled a family meeting at my home, the same living room where they'd whispered about stealing my life. This time, I'd be listening too, just with better sound quality. Vanessa arrived first, glowing like a woman stepping into victory. Marcus followed, holding his portfolio like a priest carrying scripture. Dad, he said, we just want to formalize everything, purely administrative. Of course, I replied. I trust you completely. If lies were currency, we'd have all been billionaires that day. He opened the file and laid out a new power of attorney document, more polished than the last, this time adding a clause about financial efficiency. Translation, unlimited access to my accounts. I nodded slowly, feigning exhaustion. You're right, Marcus. It's just a lot to process. Vanessa leaned in like a spider offering comfort. That's why you have us, Mr. Thornwell. You've worked enough. Let us handle the rest. I smiled weakly, the perfect act of an overwhelmed old man. Then I asked a question that froze Marcus for half a second. If something happens to me, you'll make sure the ranches stay in the family, right? Of course, Dad. You have my word. Your word, I repeated. That's good enough for me. What he didn't know was that at that exact moment, Rob was in the next room, recording everything in real time, audio, video, even the timestamps synced to my calendar. After they left, I sent Rob the files. He called me an hour later, voice tight with fury. Elias, they're not just greedy, they're organized. This isn't a misunderstanding. It's conspiracy. But we weren't done. We needed proof of intent, undeniable evidence that they planned to commit fraud, not just manipulate me. That proof came 2 nights later, courtesy of my own generosity. You see, 2 years ago, Marcus's car broke down, and I gave him one of mine. Legally, it was still in my name. So, I installed a small listening device under the dashboard. Legal, clean, perfect. That night, as they drove home from my house, the car captured everything. 3 months. Vanessa snapped. That's his trial period? What are we interns? Calm down, Marcus muttered. At least he's considering it. Considering? He's stalling. We need control, Marcus. Full control. If he won't give it, we make him give it. Vanessa, that's insane. No, she hissed. That's incompetence. The legal term. We declare him unfit. A doctor's note, a few testimonies, done. You're his son. You'll be his guardian. The court will hand everything to you. The car went silent for 5 long seconds. Then Marcus whispered, that would destroy him. No, she said coldly, it'll free us. I listened to that recording alone, in the dark. Every syllable scraped across my chest like glass. This wasn't just greed anymore. It was annihilation. They wanted my legacy, my name, my dignity. I called Rob again. They've crossed the line. You have the recording? Crystal clear. Then it's time, Rob said. Let them act. Let them think they've won. And when they do, we crush them, I finished. Background rises, a slow symphony of strings and heartbeat drums. That night, I stood by the window of my ranch house, staring into the dark horizon my father once worked with his bare hands. I thought about legacy. He built with sweat. I built with vision. And my son wanted to inherit both, without earning either. You want a game, Marcus? I whispered to the night. Then play. But remember, your old man invented the rules. Because from that moment forward, I wasn't just the father. I was the hunter. The day of the confrontation began with sunlight that felt dishonest, too calm for what was coming. I had already rehearsed every word, every pause, every stare. Because today, my son and his wife would walk into my home thinking they were claiming an empire. They were really walking into an ambush. Rob arrived first with 2 lawyers, a notary, and a small black case that held more truth than they were ready to face. Everything's in place, he said. The trust is signed, the cameras are live, and the officers outside waiting for your signal. Good, I replied. Let's give my family the welcome they deserve. At exactly 6 o'clock, the doorbell rang. I opened the door to find Marcus holding his leather portfolio, Vanessa beside him in her perfect daughter-in-law smile. Dad, Marcus said warmly, thank you for trusting us. Come in, I answered. I have people waiting in the study. They froze for a fraction of a second when they saw the room. Rob seated like a judge, 2 lawyers beside him, a notary arranging documents on the mahogany desk. Their smiles flickered, but they kept the act alive. Dad, what's going on? Marcus asked. Just some formalities, I said. Before we sign anything, I want clarity. I gestured to the chairs. They sat. The air turned heavy, the kind of silence that squeezes the truth out of people. Tell me, Marcus, I began, why do you want power of attorney over my finances? We already told you, to help, he replied quickly. Help, I repeated. And that has nothing to do with your debts? Your law firm's collapse. Marcus's throat tightened. Vanessa spoke instead. Mr. Thornwell, you're misunderstanding. We just want to protect you. Protect me? I leaned forward. From what? Myself? Their silence was my answer. I nodded at Rob. He tapped his laptop, and the speakers came alive with Marcus's own voice. We'll make him sign. And if he doesn't, we declare him incompetent. Vanessa's recorded laugh followed, cold, mechanical. The color drained from her face. "Dad," Marcus stammered, that's taken out of context." "Context?" I snapped. "Tell me, in what context does a son plan to destroy his father?" Rob played the next clip, the car recording. "Either you take control, or I'll find someone who has the guts." "All right," Marcus's voice said quietly. "I'll research incompetence, guardianship, everything." The room erupted into silence so thick it felt solid. Marcus buried his face in his hands. Vanessa's mask shattered completely. "This is illegal," she shouted. "You can't record us." Rob stood up calmly. "All recordings were made on Mr. Thornwell's property, including a vehicle he owns. Under Georgia law, one-party consent applies. These are fully admissible in court." Their panic was the first honest emotion they'd shown in months. I looked at Marcus, my son, the man I once carried on my shoulders. "You were supposed to protect the family name," I said softly. "Instead, you tried to erase it." He whispered, voice trembling, "I'm sorry, Dad. I made a mistake." "No, son," I said. "You made a decision." I pulled a folder from the desk and slid it across to him. "This is the new trust," I said. "It transfers everything, every dollar, every ranch, every asset, to charity if I'm ever declared incompetent. And you? You receive nothing." He flipped through the pages, disbelief spreading across his face. "You can't do this." "I already did." Vanessa tried one last desperate move. "Think about your reputation, Mr. Thornwell. People will judge you for turning on your own son." "Then let them judge me," I said, standing tall. "Better judged for justice than pitted for weakness." I nodded toward the door. The officer stepped inside, handcuffs glinting in the golden light. "Marcus Thornwell, Vanessa Thornwell, you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud and attempted financial exploitation." Marcus gasped, tears spilling down his face. "Dad, please. Don't let them take me." "Marcus," I said, my voice cold but trembling, "I already lost you long before today." As they were led away, Vanessa glared back at me. "You think you've won? You just destroyed your own family." "No," I said quietly, "I just saved what was left of it." Music swells, strings and slow drums merging into a powerful crescendo. When the door closed behind them, Rob asked softly, "Are you okay?" "No," I said, "but I'm right. And sometimes, that's enough." I poured myself a glass of whiskey, looked at the empty hallway where laughter once lived, and whispered, "Justice has a price, and tonight I paid it in blood." You don't realize how quiet a house can be until the echoes of betrayal stop bouncing off the walls. For days after their arrest, the silence felt alive, like the house itself was grieving. News travels fast when scandal smells like money. Within 24 hours, local papers ran the headline, "Atlanta lawyer and wife arrested for attempted fraud of elderly father." My phone didn't stop ringing, some calls dripping with sympathy, others with curiosity disguised as concern. And every question felt the same. How could your own son do this? I didn't have an answer. Maybe greed isn't learned. Maybe it's inherited and then refined by entitlement. Marcus's bail was set at $40,000. Vanessa's was higher, $60,000. They were out the next day, but free in name only. The city looked at them differently, the way you look at someone you once trusted with your wallet. Piano begins, slow and reflective. Then came the trial. The courtroom was cold, all marble and murmurs. I sat on one side, the father. They sat on the other, the accused. When the judge entered, everyone rose except my heart. Rob laid the recordings on the table like loaded weapons. The living room tape, the car confession, the bribe doctor scheme. Each one was a nail in the coffin they built for themselves. The prosecution pressed play. "We'll make him sign. If not, we declare him incompetent." Vanessa's voice filled the room, smooth, arrogant, cruel. Reporters scribbled furiously. Marcus lowered his head, hands trembling, as his own words betrayed him again and again. The doctor, yes, the one they'd bribed, confessed on the stand. "Mr. Thornwell's son offered me $2,000 to declare cognitive decline." The judge's face hardened. You falsified a diagnosis? Yes, Your Honor. The crowd gasped. Cameras flashed. And in that moment, I didn't see a courtroom. I saw the funeral of the family I once had. When my turn came to testify, I spoke the truth, not as a victim, but as a father who finally understood the cost of blind love. Your Honor, I said, for 30 years, I protected my son from consequences. I paid his debts, I fixed his failures, I mistook rescue for love. And when you rescue a man too many times, you teach him he can drown you without ever learning to swim. The room went silent. Even the judge leaned forward. Marcus's lawyer tried to argue that I had set a trap. Yes, I answered, I set a trap for liars. And they walked right in. For 2 days, the evidence spoke louder than my grief ever could. On the third day, Marcus did something no one expected. He stood up, trembling, and asked to address the court himself. Your Honor, I'm guilty. All charges? The judge asked. All of them. The room froze. Vanessa turned toward him in shock, whispering, What are you doing? He ignored her. I betrayed my father. I bribed a doctor. I tried to steal what I didn't earn. He deserves justice, not excuses. For the first time in years, I saw the boy I used to know, the one who told the truth even when it hurt. Music deepens, soft percussion, heartbeat pace. The judge's sentence was swift and sharp. Marcus Thornwell, 3 years in state prison, eligible for parole after 18 months. Vanessa Thornwell, 5 years, parole after 3. Vanessa screamed injustice. Marcus just nodded, tears sliding down his face like confession ink. Reporters swarmed me outside. Mr. Thornwell, how do you feel about your son's sentence? Sad, I said, but relieved. Because justice without pain is just theater, and this wasn't a play. That night, I sat alone in my study. The same room where greed was recorded now felt purified, haunted, but clean. I poured a glass of whiskey, stared at the documents on my desk, the trust, the will, the evidence, and whispered, You wanted a legacy, Elias Thornwell. Now you have one, proof that justice can live even in bloodlines poisoned by greed. Music softens, rain fades. In the end, the money stayed untouched. The ranches continued to run. The Ocean House was donated to veterans in my father's name. And I learned the hardest truth of all. Sometimes love looks like mercy. And sometimes, when mercy fails, love looks like consequence. 6 months after the sentencing, the world had moved on. The news cycle replaced our tragedy with another scandal, another headline. But pain doesn't move on. It lingers, quietly, like the faint echo of a scream in an empty house. Then, one morning, a letter arrived. Plain envelope. Neat handwriting. The return address, State Correctional Facility. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect anything. Prison is strange. It takes away everything fake and leaves you staring at yourself. I'm not the man who plotted against you anymore. I'm the boy you raised, learning again how to tell the truth. I'm in therapy. I'm working in the prison library. I've finally learned the value of something you tried to teach me. Money doesn't define a man, integrity does. Marcus. I read it 3 times. Not because I doubted him, but because I didn't know how to feel. Was it remorse? Or just another performance? Only time could answer that. Piano deepens. The tone turns reflective. 18 months later, Marcus was released on parole. He didn't come to my house. He didn't call. He just sent one more letter, short, almost shy. I'm working. Not as a lawyer, as a clerk. It's small, but it's honest. I'm paying back every dollar I took from you. It'll take time. But I will. True to his word, he paid me back every cent of $120,000 plus interest. No excuses. No shortcuts. Just quiet discipline. The kind of work he once thought he was too good for. When I finally saw him again, 2 years after his release, he looked older, smaller somehow, but clean. The arrogance was gone. In its place was something I'd thought he'd never possess, humility. Dad, he said softly, I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just wanted you to see that I'm trying. I didn't speak. I just looked at him, really looked. For the first time in years, I saw not the criminal, not the con, but the child I once carried on my shoulders, now carrying the weight of his own choices. We rebuilt something, not what we had, something new. Conversations replaced shouting. Honesty replaced manipulation. It wasn't perfect, but it was real, and real beats perfect every time. One day, Marcus handed me a folder. Inside, bank documents showing a final transfer. "It's done," he said. "Debt paid. Not because I had to, because I needed to." I nodded. "Then let me do what I need to," I said, signing a new will, restoring 20% of my estate to him. "If you keep living this way, it becomes 40. He smiled, a small, grateful smile. "Dad, even if you gave me nothing, I already got back what matters." And in that moment, I knew redemption wasn't about reversing pain. It was about transforming it. So, what did I learn from all this? That forgiveness isn't weakness. It's control, the power to end the story on your terms, not theirs. That family isn't defined by blood, it's defined by loyalty. And that real inheritance, the only one worth fighting for, is character. My father left me $17 million. I left my son something more valuable, the knowledge that consequences are love in disguise. Because sometimes the kindest thing a parent can do is let their child fall hard enough to learn how to stand. Music rises, then softens into a quiet outro. If this story touched you, don't just watch, reflect. Ask yourself, what's your inheritance, money or meaning? And if you believe in justice that heals, not just punishes, then hit like, share this story and subscribe. Because there are more lessons, more truths, waiting to be told.